Last night, Barcelona beat Borussia Dortmund at home 3 goals to 2 thanks to a brace from Ferran Torres. This first half was very interesting as Borussia Dortmund, even though they didn't have their best squad available, were matching Barcelona tactically. Both teams had chances to score, but they didn't take those chances. And in this video, we're going to analyze the tactical battle that these two managers had. But before we get into the video, as always guys, please do subscribe to the channel. This is going to help us a lot to get this family to grow. We upload weekly Barcelona content only. Let's start the video. Diego Martinez was operating extremely wide in the build-up phase for Barcelona, which allowed Balde to go up higher up the pitch, ultimately having Pedri and Casado as a double pivot, because Iñaki Peña and Cubarsí almost operated like a centre-back pairing. That is where you would see that the forward of Dortmund would press from an angle trying to force Barcelona to one side. This is where you would see the winger and one of the midfielders push up to put on the pressure, where the defensive midfielder had to come out here wide. And often Barcelona could slip the ball around Alejandro Balde unless this winger could press from an angle to ultimately force Inigo wide or forward more often than he would like to. And Dortmund really did get and managed to actually put Inigo under enough pressure in order to get him to go long. You know, Iñaki Peña turning into the goalkeeper, I always wanted Barcelona to have not only the sweeper keeping, but look how he is confident on the ball and playing out the back, being next to Pau Cubarsí. And Dortmund tried to force Barcelona to one side, and they actually managed to do that on multiple occasions, where they also covered Alejandro Balde, ultimately forcing Inigo to go long. Because of the success that the forward had from Dortmund, Barcelona kept on adjusting how they build up from the back. If they had to, they had Cubarsí, Inigo and Koundé coming in as a back three in order to make this players pressing useless. Or you would just simply see Iñaki Peña also coming out, and then Inigo and Koundé simply would just become like fullbacks, and that is how they constantly outnumbered them. Koundé also had a lot of success finding the ball here in the space, where you would see if he gets pressed, then Dani Olmo would just simply find the ball just in behind. So Hansi Flick kept on adjusting whatever Dortmund did. He just went with the back three, went with the back four, and Iñaki Peña was super important in this instance. If you have been watching my channel long enough, you would know that Xavi also used many times this early like back three, where if the opposition had a single guy pressing up front, right? But for the most part, if it was a two-man, you would see three players. If it was three players, Barcelona would have a back four. But what impressed me was the positioning of Iñaki Peña, as he was brilliant. Just after the first wave of success that Dortmund had in the first half, because of this double pivot, you saw that they actually started defending in a 4-2-4 situation. However, they did this because they wanted to block the passing lanes towards Barcelona's double pivot. But you saw that Hansi Flick had Pedri and Dani Olmo going just besides the two defensive midfielders, and they were finding a lot of success. Now, if you pair that with the movement that you saw from Marc Casado, he was dropping deep and just orchestrating the downfall of Dortmund, so that didn't help them at all. And Barcelona started dominating the game. And also, if you add Rafinha, who's just circulating in these areas just in behind, Barcelona had a numerical advantage around the defensive midfielders of Dortmund. So this is how Barcelona gained success and gained control of the game. I think at one point it was like 63% possession. That was because they started defending in a 4-2-4 situation. I'm starting to see this 4-2-4 shape among big teams all over Europe. And if teams would defend against us like this, I don't think we should ever have a problem of beating them. But man, can we just talk about Casado in this game in particular, the way he dropped deep and actually orchestrated everything? This kid is just miles ahead of the other midfielders. He's so important to Barcelona. Dani Olmo also was very helpful in the build-up phase when Dortmund had this 4-2-4 situation, as he would drop deep to get on the ball and orchestrate. This 4-2-4 shape could have been so much more catastrophic for Borussia Dortmund, because Barcelona didn't really we didn't take our chances in this game as I would have liked to, because Casado, man oh man, talk about this little kid, how he's able to drop into these spaces in these areas. He's making Frankie de Jong look like a Manchester United player at this point, right? How he's able to find Rafinha and how he's able to circulate. I do think that Pedri didn't circulate himself enough in this game to be able to take full advantage, but because this shape did come really narrow, and we did see that Dani Olmo even had to come into this area in order to get on the ball. So these wide spaces were also a problem for Dortmund to take into consideration. And Pedri and Kunde would have drawn so much players out of position, and therefore it would have opened the gateway for Olmo. So there was a lot to be desired in this Barcelona attack in this game last night, as we only really got to life in the second half, which we will talk about in a separate video. This 4-2-4 shape really made life easy for Barcelona, as Barcelona was able to find space just on the sides of these two defensive midfielders, especially Dani Olmo. And Dani Olmo has elevated Barcelona to tremendous heights. Casado, again, look at how he's orchestrating the play, how he's telling the guys where to find the space. Look at Lamine Yamal also being able to exploit the space. And the long balls of Casado, man, if you watch the video up until this point, I want you to comment, should Gavi and Frankie de Jong replace Casado? Just say yes or no. And then Dani Olmo, I want you guys to see here, this guy is so good at finding space in the half spaces, right? He was drawing centre backs out of position as well. So good tactics. With Barcelona's high press, we didn't see Lamine and Rafinha press like we normally see they would. In fact, it was actually Robert Lewandowski that led the press in this game, in particular, as Lamine Yamal was defending a little bit more wider. And Rafinha was tasked, because of his stamina and his tank, he was supposed to keep two players and press from an angle, while Dani Olmo would sit on whoever was the single pivot, while Lamine would also cover indirectly like two players as well. But it was the Lewandowski who had to get the opposition to defend and go over to the one side of the pitch, and that is where everything would come to life for Barcelona. More often than not, you saw that Schlotterbeck was tasked to go straight to Julian or to the number 9, and that is how Dortmund would get high up the pitch. But Rafinha's tank is really maybe what's having him these calf injuries, and also him being so tired because he's having to keep two players at bay. And Pedri and Casado was doing a real good job at keeping the single pivot here, and also follow the player Sabitzer or Julian, who would ever actually drop towards the ball, he would cover them, the double pivot as well. And Kunde and Balde, of course, whenever the ball or the situation would arise, you saw that Balde and Kunde would come out high up the pitch in order to help. And Barcelona defended extremely risky in this game, but it paid off nonetheless. I don't want to say I'm not surprised that Robert Lewandowski was pressing up front. I just think that this is Flick showing us he's flexible, he can adjust, right? Because I do think that he wanted Lamine Yamal to be a little bit wider on that side. I don't know, maybe because of that winger. He didn't want that winger to be in a one-on-one situation with Kunde, who knows. But yeah, we saw that Lewandowski was pressing from an angle, and then there you can see that Lamine Yamal is actually keeping tabs on that fullback. You know, Hansi Flick has been coming under a lot of scrutiny lately about Barcelona's pressing structure, but I mean, the guy is showing us that he's flexible, he can adjust to whatever comes Barcelona's way, and we should actually trust him that he knows what he's doing, right? And the moment the ball got into the midfield, Barcelona was like wind hounds as they would just circulate around the ball. So it was a good pressing structure, and I think Robert Lewandowski is bringing his share, he's bringing his side to the game in terms of Barcelona's pressure. However, guys, do let me know what do you think about Barcelona's performance, particularly in the first half, as I'm going to make a video separately about the second half, because I do feel like Barcelona changed a lot over the course of the game, especially with the pressing and the structure and the way we play. We're going to make a separate video only on that. As always, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content only. If you're a Barca fan, you will definitely love this channel. Thank you.